you're tuning into AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng. It is becoming increasingly clear for businesses that putting digital at the heart of what they do is the way forward. But what does it mean to be a digital-first company? And today we are taking a closer look at Paramount Corporation, a real estate developer with big digital ambitions. And joining me today, I'm really excited to have Jeffrey Chew, Group CEO and Executive Director of Paramount with me. First of all, Jeffrey, thank you so much for having me at your office here today.
Thank you for inviting me to this interview. Yeah.
A lot of people know Paramount Corporation as a real estate developer, but I'm quite certain there's so much more to that now. Especially, you have taken charge since 2014. A lot of changes have happened. Can you give us a snapshot of what Paramount is now?
Okay, we are known as the people's developer, but really we are not really purely a property company per se. We were actually a property company and also an education player. We actually have investments in the Sri KDU school, and also later we acquired the Real Education Group. But we also had a tertiary education, which is the KDU University College, both in Klang Valley as well as also in Penang as well. So when I came in, we had these two big businesses which we leveraged in terms of doing a lot of cross-sell and all that within the two businesses. But however, when I look at the businesses over the last 10 years, it has reached very much over a maturity stage. And I felt that it's time to convince the board that it's time to move on, and we decided to actually divest. So we took a bit of time to figure out how to do it, and then finally we got a couple of interested buyers, and we divest them in year 2019. And of course, as we decided to divest them way back in 2015 to 2016 as part of a 5-year strategic plan, we have to figure out what are we going to do, since we're going to lose more than half of our business away. So we have been ramping up in terms of building our capability as well as capacity in the property business to really grow and fill up the vacuum. And today, after 4 years that we have divested, we actually much bigger organization, despite we lost about 60% of our profits from the education business.
Okay.
And that's something that quite different today compared to what we were when I joined in 2014.
And I was looking through your numbers. I think property business still make up the majority of your revenue, but there is an increasing focus towards digital businesses,
yes.
Fintech, e-commerce, e-learning, and also I think F&B is one part of your business. Can you talk to us about that divestment strategy and then, or rather diversification, if I can
Okay, when I presented the plan that we will divest the education business, the first question is that how do you fill it up? So to me, the first leg of filling up is to build the property business. So we actually put a lot more resources and capital in the property business, and we redeploy a fair bit of the divestment into the property business in terms of equity to build it up. But we did say that, what if we cannot build it big enough to fill up the vacuum, and what we need to pivot going forward into the next 10 years. I felt very strongly that the only way to go is go digital. Maybe the next 10 years, 20 years at that point of time, I see that maybe 50%, 60% of the businesses that we have today will disappear. And not too sure whether property will disappear completely, but I think a certain portion of education will disappear. And that's the reason why we divested education first. And then figure out how do we fill up your property, but also what other businesses that we can do to continue on to build the growth so that we can cover the gap, as well as potentially to find a complementary second core businesses that we can have beyond property after losing off the education business.
So what is that second core business of yours?
Well, it has to be anything that's digital. So the way that we have positioned the business is that we look at two ways of going digital. One is to really go into the unknown new digital business directly. And how do we do it? Well, we decided that we'll do it by investing in small startups and grow with them. And if it has a big potential to become as big as a property business in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years, then we would put all our resources in to build a secondary business in that particular segment. And that's why we invested in EduTech, which is open learning. We invested in a fintech, which is Fundastic.com. And we also invested not too long ago in Commerce Asia as well, because we felt that if this can grow into a core business that is as big as property, then we will have two separate core businesses, and who knows, the brick and mortar business of property may change over the next 20 years. And that's the two prong. One is to invest in that. Then on the second front, we also think that our property business, the brick and mortar business, need to transform. Not so much of digital first, but digital enabled property company. And that's the two prong that we are approaching in terms of changing into the next 10 to 20 years going down.
And one of the areas is, I believe, is co-working spaces, collabs. Talk to us about that.
Collabs is, it is quite ancillary to the property business, especially the commercial property. And also it's a little bit of an experiment and also a development strategy, because my late boss, Datuk Teo, his son Benjamin is quite young, and he needs to really find a way for him to learn how to build the business and build something completely new. And he has this great idea of co-working space. And we said that, hey, why don't we let him run with it? And of course, we're not too sure where it's going to go. But surprisingly, we left him alone. We said that this is the parameters that you can run around. And today, he has built 7 co-working centers already. And we are the top 5, and it's profitable. So that's quite an amazing, but it's still very much ancillary part of the property business, because all the commercial offices that we built, if we cannot sell or cannot lease it out, we will always have our own business that we can fill up the offices. Now today, we'll probably have close to 200,000 square feet. Can you imagine? So when we develop an office commercial area of 200,000, 300,000, we can literally fill them up with a co-working space, and that was the strategy in that. But today it's no longer as a complementary or ancillary business, but it could be a business on its own. We are looking at acquisition in the country. We're also looking at acquisition outside of the country as well, as for part of the expansion plan.
So I've read that close to over 90% of the group's revenues still come from property business. Correct me if I'm wrong, these are numbers I got. But moving forward, do you see that figure changing to have more focus on your digital aspects of your ventures instead? How do you see that ratio moving?
I think I would like to see it grow bigger to 20%, 30%, or even 50% over time. But I think we are a little bit cautious, honestly. And sometimes I do miss the mentorship from my previous, my late boss, which is have that so-called very strong character of entrepreneurship, bravery, and as you know, we have this tribe. Tribe stands for trust, respect, integrity, bravery, and energy. And the last two is really very much talking about entrepreneurship and willing to take risks. I wish that we are going to go faster on that, and I think that I'll put a lot more effort in making it happen. So I like to see 30% beyond the core property business in Malaysia.
All right. So I read that Paramount also announced that it will invest up to 100 million ringgit in startups over the next few years. Is that cash all spoken for, or are you still looking to invest in, on the lookout for new investments?
We are still on the lookout. We probably have used roughly about half of it. Of course, that's excluding the investment that we made on the co-working space, which is a separate investment. We think that we are still trying to find an investments that really will be very much have synergy with our existing business, which is property development. And of course, we also have a couple of domain knowledge in our business, like education, which we don't really own anymore or run, but we have strong domain knowledge. And similarly, we also have a very strong domain knowledge in finance, which that's where I come
Your
from.
background. Mm-hmm.
And we like to invest in areas of these 3 areas, rather than like healthcare or like in transportation and logistics, where we have very little or no experience or domain knowledge.
So what keeps you excited? What's looking exciting to you?
I think anything that exciting will have to be digital enabled and able to leverage on technology. And then of course the next wave is AI, and I'm also quite excited about AI. Not too sure how much we can deploy in the property business, but I'm sure it can be deployed very much in the fintech, in the edutech, as well as also in the Commerce Asia segment. And that's something that I tried to work on like nearly 20 years ago, off the shelf, trying to do a lot of AI prediction. But at that time, the market is not ready, the institutions around are not so ready yet. Today, well, that's the next area that I'm very excited about.
All right. Paramount had attempted to secure a digital banking license with a consortium of companies. Unsuccessful just yet, but talk to us about that decision. And what was the intention, what was the ambition of Paramount going into it?
It's part of the strategy that we said that we have a vacuum that we need to fill with the education divestment, and this opportunity of digital bank came along. And with some potential partners at that point in time that was interested, so we decided that we would try to apply. And fortunately or unfortunately, we didn't get the license. But nevertheless, I think we already have invested in the fintech, which is fantastic, which is very much both a lending platform as well as the investment platform. And if you look at banking overall, a lot of it has to do with deposits and lending, and also investment and payments. So we felt that while we lost the opportunity, but it comes with a lot of responsibility as well if you had a license. But we already have this part of the business with us, and we also acquired Commerce Asia, which also have a payment gateway in their business. So in a sense, we may not have the digital license, but in essence, we are doing a lot of things a digital bank would have done. It's a question of how do we scale it up a lot more, faster and bigger. And my goal is that we're not trying to get a license to become a new digital banker alone. But I think the ambition is to really create a platform, an ecosystem of the core small SMEs. And with that, we felt that it's the opportunity to focus on these segments, whether it's in payments, whether it's in lending, or whether it's in investments. I think that's the area that we want to use the word own that segment, because nobody really pays attention to that.
So with all that you have said, do you still see the value of getting a digital banking license?
I think after 2 years, and in fact, I conduct a 2-hour session under FIDE for bank directors, and the topic is digital bank. I've been following up the development of digital bank for since we lost the license. I find that it's getting more and more challenging. So there was one foreign bank group CEO asked me the question, Jeff, if you today have the hindsight of know what's to come, would you have still applied again?
Were you told why it was rejected? Were you informed?
Normally no.
Okay.
But we suspect different reasons. So for us, we respect the decision, and we don't think that's a big loss, because we already have some of the things that we could do on our own in terms of whether it's lending, investments, or even payments and so on.
Yeah, so I think that brings me to my next question. So you have your property business, and then you have all this digital stuff happening. Are there plans to embed some of this, for instance, banking products into your property transactions? Like, how do you see that convergence?
Well, banking and finance industry, fintech, is very much ahead, but a lot of industries like the property industries is still very much brick and mortar. And I'm glad to see that there's a lot of effort being done by the industry and also by the regulators and authorities to put things online. And I think next year with the e-invoicing, that will force a lot more digitization. So I think once that takes place, it's much easier for the property industry that we actually have to integrate with the fintech, with the payments and all that we have. So we don't see so much synergy at this stage, but we think that over time there will be.
Okay, well, that's all very interesting, but I do want to switch gears a bit and talk about yourself. You have quite an interesting background with over 2 decades of experience in the banking sector before you joined Paramount in 2014. Talk to us, what inspired you to make that big move, that switch?
Well, 22 years in banking, but another 5 years as an accountant and also in taxation as well. So all these years, other than having a lot of knowledge and experience in various fields like taxation, accountancy, auditing, banking, finance, economy, and all that. But I think the most important part in the many years, the last 25 years or 27 years before I joined Paramount, it was the environment and the opportunity that was given to me in terms of building businesses. I was in 9 different roles in the banking industry. And out of the 9, 3 of them were really building new businesses. And that was a great opportunity to learn how to, not just to run a BAU in those roles that I was heading, but really to a chance to build new businesses within the banks. And that actually gives me a lot of confidence when I moved to Paramount to build new businesses within Paramount, new areas and different countries like going to Bangkok and so on. But also venture into some of the fintech businesses on my own, as well as also together with the investment in that. I think people ask, is it a very difficult transition being a banker to a property?
Did you find the things that you have learned in banking handy when you came to Paramount?
It's 80% same, because at the end of the day, in most businesses, it's about your customer, it's about your process, and it's about your product. And of course, property, the other element is that it's about your financing and managing your finance. One new element that's very new to me would be actually land banking. That was probably something that I have to really pick up. But other than that, naturally 70-80% of the role in terms of what I was doing as a bank CEO in OCBC, not very much on what I do day to day here. But the biggest challenge and the biggest focus has always been people.
Correct.
And there's no change whether you're in a bank, you are in an audit firm, or you are running government. At the end of the day, it is really people.
So on that note, people, right? As we've talked about for a while, Paramount started off, the bread and butter has been property development, very traditional business. How did you bring that change to an organization that's so used to doing things in a certain way and bringing that more entrepreneurial mindset, if I can put it? And I should have been resistance when you started.
I still think that there's quite a fair bit of resistance naturally in people. And we want to make sure that we want to get our people to be not fearful of technology, not fearful of automation, not worry about losing your jobs, but willing to embrace technology. And it's not easy because the challenge is not to the people that works very long in Paramount, but it's also people like me, myself. Being a 57-year-old person, I'm born in an era where everything is manual. I still love to write a lot of things. So it's a battle within myself, within the people around. And I think we all have to day-to-day constantly say that we should not be fearful of technology. We must embrace it. Everything new, you have to embrace it. Then you will learn and you will do better. And we are still going through this journey, honestly. Okay. And that's the reason why we have 2 prompts. If we were have single prompt to transform internally, it's going to be very challenging. And that's why we set aside 100 million. We said we will invest in new businesses where we don't have to start on our own. We don't have to do the changes every day, but let an entrepreneur do it. We work with them and we learn from them. And then hopefully we can import some of the processes, some of the technology into the brick and mortar business.
Have you seen that convergence?
Some here and there. We are trying to employ some of the things, like for example, TikTok. We're saying that some of our digital businesses are doing TikTok. Why can't we bring it to our sales in Paramount in terms of property sales, right? So these are the things that we are trying to do. And that's where the 2-prompt strategy in terms of transformation to digital journey is actually very important.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when you talk about digital transformation, it is somewhat a buzzword and everyone has gotten advice how to do it. But I do wonder from your perspective as a leader, where do you see your role? Where do you focus your energy when it comes to digital transformation?
I think I should focus more on people, because at the end of the day, it's actually very hard to get people to be very comfortable in terms of digital. For example, there's a lot of people who say that, hey, I believe in it, but when you ask them to sign up for a digital app, they will ask you, how do I start? So that's a lot of challenge. So for me, it's really hiring the right talent, attracting the right talent to hire, keep on training and nurturing talent so that they can actually embrace technology and not afraid to fail. We have 3 of our investments. One of them got listed, and yet we lost money. But I think I'm quite happy that both my late boss as well as also the board understands that you need to take a bold leap of faith, but you need to have a controlled amount that you can afford to lose.
Right.
And then when it happens, you don't punish the management. So I'm very cognizant that we will let people try. Sometimes they will fail, but don't punish them. If you punish them, then you will stop the whole culture of changing. A lot of times, and people say that, well, why should we change? We are doing well. Paramount Property, we used to be 200 million property. Now we are 1 billion. We actually have grown more than 400%. We are doing extremely well. But should we wait until we start to lag, or have the mindset that, it ain't broken, why need you fix it? No, it's that when we are doing absolutely very well, it's a time that we really need to change and see what else can we do differently, because the world will change and is changing as we go along.
Okay, so I want to get your thoughts about setting directions. You're running 2 very different businesses. One that requires you to pivot very quickly in your digital space, and one when you're looking at property, it's like 5, 10, 15, 20 years ahead, right? How do you manage that? How do you set clear directions to your people with such diverse portfolios that you're managing?
Very complex thinking. I'm very much able to be compartmentalized in my own management. For example, when I look at issues, I look at the issues from a context of tax. I look at the issue from a context of financial accounting. I look at the context in terms of the investor relationship. I look at the context in terms of operation 4 in one go. So I could able to do that, but I find that it's a challenge that most people in the organization needs to be direct specifically. So again, you need to build the right culture for the change that I spoke earlier, but more important is the mindset. So there has to be a balance within mindset and culture. Mindset meaning that we have to take risks, we have to be able to adventure. But what I'm very happy about Paramount is that there's always evidences, especially like collabs, the 4 or 5 years of journey that we've taken. Today, everybody could see the results. Michelin 2-star restaurant, okay, it surprises me we got 2-star. But the reality is that we actually know that we can't make a lot of money out of it, but we're still willing to support it and grow it, because we are willing to take risks, and we believe that it's a good asset to keep within the group to enhance the branding of the group, and of course to make Malaysian proud that we have a 2-star Michelin restaurant. So in that way, I think it's about mindset and laid down by our previous chairman, our late chairman, that bravery and energy must remain in the core of the thinking and the mindset of the people, every level.
What about getting buy-in from your stakeholders, from your stakeholders, shareholders, employees, ensure they're detractors along the way with all the grand ambitions that you have?
I think
what do you say to them?
Sometimes at the lower level, you just need to do a little bit of top-down at a certain point of time, that this is what you need to do. In terms of digitization or in terms of ESG, you just have to do top-down, because if not, it's quite difficult, because everybody is so preoccupied with their own work and their own KPI, taking new things, transforming things. For example, look for ways how you can become more efficient in your processes. Everybody will say that, hey, I'm always so busy doing what I'm doing. I don't have time to think through this issue. But if I do think through this issue, then I'll be out of a job. So why should I do it? But again, you just need to do a top-down. This is what you need to do. These are the projects that you need to look at. These are the outcomes that you need to plan for, and then we will try to measure you at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, it's also incentives. You must have the right level of incentives to make sure that people are rewarded, while on the other hand, there will be mistakes, there will be errors, but if the errors, you contain it well and it's manageable, you should allow it to happen, so that at the end of the day, you get the outcome that's bigger and more tangible in the long run.
One final question to you, Jeffrey. How would you describe your playbook as a CEO, and how do you stay laser focused when so many things are happening around you at all times?
I think I try to make sure that I'm very in touch with the outside world. I find that in the last 2 organizations, that the last 20 years nearly, I find that most organizations are very inward-looking.
Okay.
So I made an effort to really spend time going outside. Like for example, when I travel, a lot of people feel very uncomfortable when they travel to explore different things. To me, when I travel, I must get on the MRT and the public transport because that's where I see what is the world doing outside of Malaysia. How does the transport system works? How do they price it? Who use the transport system? How do they dress? Who is the one who is buying this and buying that? So need to really explore everything outside and see what's so different, why it's different, and how we can embrace external good values, good culture, good products, good practices into the company. And rather than sticking to what we are good at, what we should do, but a lot more things that we have not done that we can do better.
Right.
So that's the culture of bringing things from outside into the organization.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for sharing your thoughts,
Most
insights,
welcome.
and also your plans for our Paramount. Thank you so much. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you.